For coming on today. There we go. All right. Yeah. Thank you all for coming on today. Today we're going to go over a good amount of items that are really meant for you to, now that you're set up with all the different KDB technology, what exactly is it? What all does it do? How can you take advantage of it? So this is going to be a very high level overview of everything you'll have access to, and perfect timing too, especially as we get close to the end of the year and going into 2025. This will be fantastic for you to really take advantage of anything and everything on here right away. All right, so I'm going to flip this around. We're going to go through anything and everything command on here today. All right, so I'm going to turn this around on here. I want to make sure I've got my proper one on here. Perfect. All right, so this is first and foremost the command homepage. This is all under agent.kdb.com. And this is where you'll really want to spend a good amount of your time on all the different KDB technology. It's all going to be right back here. So we're going to go through and talk about just about everything that's available over here on the left-hand side. What all does it do? But before we get into that, I always like to do a little bit of housekeeping on this. So first and foremost, this is the homepage of your command platform. So when you first sign in, this is where everything is going to display of all the different items that you'll have access to. So if you want to go through and see, what are your goals that you have set up for this year in order to hit your estimated, GCI target, this is going to show you how many leads you'll need to convert and how many leads need to turn into appointments, how many appointments need to turn into under contracts, how many under contracts need to turn into closed units to get to that level right away. All right. And we'll talk about that in a second once we get to the actual reporting section on here over here. That's where all those goals will pop up. But then we also happen to have the option of adding inside a notepad on here. So if you want to add in just some quick little, notes, any nuggets of information that you might have, maybe you were on a call and you just want to make a quick little update on here. If you're going through and then you're about to take a break for a showing or you're hopping out for lunch or anything of that sort, maybe you want to just highlight, hey, this is where I left off. So you can write in anything you'd like on here and it'll automatically stick. So think of it more as like a sticky note for you just to keep up to date with everything. So here is where you can type thing you would like. All right. And then that'll automatically display on here for you. So it's a great little, sticky note option for you to keep up to date with anything you want to just jot down. Now, another fantastic feature on this homepage is going to be your task section. So under here, it's going to show all the tasks that you have that are either due, that are past due, or you can also come through here and see what's coming up in like the next 7 days or due later. So this is a great way to see based on your contacts, what task do you have to do? Are there any calls you need to make? Are there any just tasks in general of items that you might want to update? This will help to go through and launch that right away on here. Right. And then, of course, you can also see all of your recent leads over here. So any leads that have come in from your app, your profile, your website, any marketing that you might have being pushed out. So if you're doing any campaigns, this will help to drive all those back over to your database to utilize immediately. Right. And then, of course, on here, you can also see everything from your office as well, too. So I'm looking at this on here. I'm under the signature office right now, but it'll show any events in your market center, anything that the office wants to highlight for you. Maybe it's going to be preferred vendor, upcoming classes. This is just going to be office specific on here. Now, one thing to note, there's actually even more than what I'm showing you on here right now, because at the top right, you can click this customize option. And this will allow you to add inside a couple other items. So if you want to see product updates, if you want to see most active contacts, your database health, profit share, you can add that in right away. And you can even adjust where this is displaying. So if, maybe your database health is the number one thing you want to see, and you want to constantly see your most active contacts first, and then your recent leads. All right, you can adjust this right away and kind of tweak this immediately. All right, so there's even more that you can add inside on here to kind of see everything possible. So I just want to give you a heads up that's all available on here to help out immediately as well too. All right, perfect. So this is all accessible on here. And then the other big thing I do want to talk about is when we're looking at this on here. So we're currently under command right now. Y'all should also have the connect option. You won't have command MC, so don't worry about that one that you're seeing on my screen right now. But then if you do want to access KDB Connect, this is where you can go through and basically find a plethora of training opportunities, a plethora of different items that are more of like an internal intranet for anything and everything Keller Williams. All right, so that's all accessible on here just to help out. All right, so I love highlighting this because KDB Connect or kdbconnect.com is a great place for all additional training opportunities for you. All right, all the additional items that you might want to learn a little bit more about the KDB platforms. and then anything and everything about KW as well too. So as you can see, we've got lead generation options. You can continue learning on here. There's self-study courses. And this is just from Connect via command. Because if you go to kbconnect.com, this is going to give you even more information that you can access on here as well too. All right, there we go. And so then we'll actually have on here some additional training options. We have additional resources that you can utilize, technology items, communities, growth. And this is all going to be from KW directly that'll be updating this. So it's a great way to stay up to date and connected with everything that's going on right now. All right. Now, before we get into the nitty gritty on here, this goes back to the housekeeping items. So we talked about the home page, but over on the top right over here, we also have what looks to be kind of like a storefront icon. Now, this is the marketplace. So on the marketplace on here, this is where you can go through and purchase additional items through KW directly. And some of them will be items that are just for your command account. Some are external items. So if you want to add in, geez, like if you want to have a sync that goes from your Gmail account or Google Contacts over to your contacts inside command, there are options to purchase that as well too, or even discounted rates on other external items. So like Canva, for instance, with KW, you get a 20% discount on the entire yearly platform. So if you want to go through and actually purchase that, then you can get a discount on that as well too. So I always love to highlight the marketplace because there's a plethora of free items you can use from here as well, but there's also some paid options to help you out even further. Now, next to that, you're going to have this little bell icon. This is going to show you any notifications that are coming in right now. So if you have that red dot on it, that means that there is going to be an unread notification on here. All right, so I've got 1,809, so I'm thoroughly behind on my notifications on here. But if you want to, you can also go through and mark all these as red if you'd like to kind of clear them out. And then you can even view the red notifications on here as well. So that's all accessible for you to access. All right, so now let's get inside everything that's under our name over here on the right-hand side. All right, so on the right-hand side, once we click on our name, top right up here, I should say. All right, then we're going to be able to see a couple different items, and the two big ones we'd want to focus on. You've got My Profile. So this is going to be your profile that you can go through and update with your information. This will highlight internal info that you can utilize at any time. But we're going to click on this settings section instead. So let's go through and click on that settings option on here real quick. All right, so if you're following along on here, go ahead and select that. All right. All right, so once I click on settings on here, perfect. All right, now the first thing that's going to come up, all right, is going to be under our command settings on here. So we're looking at all of our applications that we're currently under right now. So we've got our applications on here, and this is going to show anything and everything that we have linked with our command account for y'all to be able to access. So on here, you can see if you have DocuSign linked up properly, so that way you can start to utilize this for e-transactions. All right, you can then go through and link up your Facebook account, link up your Instagram account, or add inside, Twitter or X in this case now, or even sync like Google Calendar, your Gmail account, Outlook, whatever you'd like to, so that way it'll sync over with your contacts right away. So these are all internal items that you can link with command that'll automatically add these items in to your platform. So whether it's, on the social side, if you want to go through and be able to post out on Facebook, post out on Instagram, you can do that by linking up your accounts. Or if you want to sync on here, for instance, geez, your Gmail account, then anytime that an email comes in from a contact that you have that has that email address, it'll automatically add that to the timelines, and you'll be able to find that very quickly. All right. Now, one big thing that I did want to take a look at, if we scroll to the very bottom on here, so the very, very bottom, we're going to have a couple different items on here. And the first one we're going to have is our email services. And this is going to show command email, MailChimp if you want to utilize that, and then Twilio as well too under messaging. Now, the command email one is the one that I really want to take a look at, because this is the official email provider of command and includes 5,000 free email sends per month. All right, so if you click the manage option under command email, this is where you're actually able to go through and see what does your monthly usage look like on here. And then on top of that, All right. What is the sender name and the reply to email? Now, the reason I wanted to highlight this on here is because the sender name, for instance, is very important. That's the name that's going to display every time that you send out any email from command, all right, whether it's a campaign, a smart plan, whatever it might be. But then the reply to email is even more important because this is the email that you're going to get all replies sent back to. So in this case, you want to make sure that it's your primary email address, whether it's your keto.com email or an external email you might be utilizing. Right? Because all emails coming out from command are going to come from a specific email that's linked to you. Right? So it's a mailer email address. So if you ever send a test out or anything of that sort, you're going to see that email that'll come out from each time. But when people reply back, you want to make sure that you're receiving that. So let's make sure this is set up correctly on here to help out. All right, so I always like to highlight that. And then if you do want to utilize texting or anything of that sort, then through Twilio on here, you can actually purchase different text credits. So that way you can send out SMS or MMS messages on there, whether it's simple messaging or multimedia messaging on. All right, so SMS is just going to be 1 credit to send out. So that's like your standard text that'll just include, text. And then MMS is going to be anything that'll include any type of multimedia. So if you're sending out an image, if you're sending out a video, whatever it might be on there, that's going to be 3 credits on here instead. All right, and you can purchase that directly from the marketplace if you want to utilize that. All right, and then the other big thing that I want to take a look at, obviously we have some other settings you can always take a look at as well too. But the other big item before we get into all these on here is going to be this connect setting on here. So we do have under our connect setting, our marketing profile. So I'm going to click on that because it'll highlight this for y'all. So we've got our marketing profile on here. And this is where everything is going to display your information that'll automatically feed out to your marketing pieces, that'll feed out to a website. In this case, that's automatically going to just highlight for you. All right. Heck, even over on your app, over on your keto.com profile, this is going to be very crucial for you to utilize. All right, so this way you can add inside your headshot, you can add inside your team logo if you have one. This is where you can update your information. All right, so your first name, last name, license number, professional job title, slogan, designation, your bio. Once again, all these items on here are going to be crucial because at the end of the day, this is where you can actually go through and have this feed to all those different platforms. So once again, this is going to feed out over to your keto.com profile, out to your app, out to your website, out to your smart plans and all of your marketing pieces. We want to make sure that everything that is feeding over here is displaying directly and displaying properly. So once again, this information can be changed at any time. Nothing is set in stone by any means. I just definitely want to make sure that is known on here to help you out. All right. But you can go through and adjust this at any time on here. And once you scroll to the very bottom, then it'll have that save option where you can access that immediately on here as well. Okay, so that's just a little bit of housekeeping items. So I know I spent the first 15 minutes of this class just talking purely about housekeeping, but this will help you so much whenever we actually get into these additional items over here on the left-hand side. So now let's talk about this. All right, so now looking at the left-hand side, we're going to have all of our different items and all of our different applets that we can utilize at any time. So first thing first on here, we have our contact section. All right, so under the contact section on here, this is where we have, well, all of our contacts. All right, so the best thing on here is if you do not have your contacts imported quite yet, just a heads up, please feel free to reach out to us. We can get that added in at any time for you. So if you want us to import those contacts, you're definitely more than welcome to help on here to make your life a little bit easier. So please let us know what we can do to help out on this one. All right, now to add inside a contact though, very simple. All right, so all you have to do is click this add contact button at the top right. And all you need to add a contact is just their name. As you can see, this is the only item that's required. Now, obviously, I may suggest adding in more than just the name on here. But in this case, all you have to do is add inside that name and that's it. All right, but if you have their primary email on here, if you have their phone number or anything of that sort, all right, you can add that in as well too. So I'm going to put inside my info real quick. There we go. You can even specify a lead source. You can add inside specific tags that'll help you to find everything a little bit quicker on here. That's all going to be accessible for you. And you can even add inside an additional person on here for the relationship. So it's their spouse, father, mother, son, daughter, brother, sister, sibling, whatever it might be on here. You can add in all these items to help out. Right, so that's all accessible on here to help out a little bit further. All right. And then beyond that, so once I go through, I can also add inside some additional information on here. So if I want to add in extra contact info, I can come on here and add inside an extra email address, an additional phone number. You can add in even more on here, so completely up to you. Add inside their home address or their work address on here, social profiles. If I want to add inside Facebook, if I want to add inside Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever it might be, I can add this in immediately. All right. And then even about information, right? So if you have their birthday, home anniversary, once again, that relationship that we were talking about earlier, this will all be accessible to help out on here right away. All right. And then finally, some custom stuff. All right. So if you want to add inside certain things like area of interest, favorite sports team, kids' names, their price point, you can add inside an additional custom field on here. So we can add in some other items. Maybe we want to put inside their hometown, status, time frame, website, whatever it might be. We can get that going immediately. Right. And maybe in this case, I'm going to say favorite. There we go. Yeah, favorite local band. Right. And then as you can see, I can create a new one on here. So you can actually update this at any time to help out with that immediately as well. All right. So just a heads up, that is all accessible on here. All right. Now, once I click that create option, this is going to add the contact immediately. Now, if you notice, it didn't add mine on here. And the reason it did not add mine is because I already have that email or that phone number in my database. So it won't allow you to add inside duplicate information on here. So I just want to give you a heads up on there. All right, so it won't allow you to have duplicate info. So in order to add this contact, I would need to have a different email address or a different phone number, in this case, both, in order to add them in. Right, so I just want to give you a heads up on that right away. And then if you notice something on here, one big thing I wanted to highlight for y'all is that on here, I actually have this filtered out right now. So you can actually go through and filter out specific items, right? Where you can say, hey, I'm going through and I'm going to filter by, in this case, I've got this set up by a tag called class demo. All right, but I can actually go through and filter by contacts only, leads only, specific tags, lead source. So this way you can really segment your database even further on. So that's the good part about this. You can segment this immediately. All right, so that's all accessible for y'all to take advantage of. All right. And the reason I love highlighting that is because as you make changes on here, first and foremost, this is what the contact section will currently look like, but you can always customize the columns and move these around if you want to. So maybe instead of having recently active right near the front next to primary phone, maybe I want to have primary email next to it. And I want to have tags next to that. And maybe I also want to add inside primary address on here. I want that up near the top as well too, next to email. You can click on customize columns and move these around right away. All right, so that's all accessible on here just to help out. All right, and then once again, if you do make any updates, you can also save smart views. And this is basically like a save search for a client. So how a client would typically set up a save search on your website that's going to go through and highlight, hey, here is, the properties that I'm looking for, the areas I'm looking for properties in. Here's the beds, baths, price range, anything of that sort. This will be very similar. So that way, instead of having to go through and filter this out every time, you can just do it once, save this on here, and then you'll be all good to go. All right, so that's all accessible to help out. All right. Now, one other thing I may suggest, and I'm going to move on from here because I know we got a lot more to cover, but one thing I may suggest as well too is clicking on this show option at the top right and showing up to 500 contacts. If you have more than 500 contacts, I would highly suggest that. Even if you have like more than 100 contacts, I may suggest that so you can see all contacts on one page on here. And this will help out tremendously to make sure this stands out for you. And the reason I'm saying that is because then instead of seeing 10 contacts per page where you have to move through multiple pages, well, instead you can just come on here and basically say, hey, I want to view all the contacts that are available, and let's access that right away. All right, so let's go and move on to the next one on here. All right, and we do have, once again, full 1 hour classes on all these different applets. I just want to give you all a heads up on that. So even though I'm not covering everything that's accessible on here, we do have deep dives on everything possible. So I just want to give you a heads up. So that way we can go even further into the contact side. All right, now the next big thing that we do have on here are the tasks. So under the task section on here, all right, this is where you can actually go through and view all those tasks that I was talking about before. So you can link up a task just by clicking the create new task option if you want to do a one-off, or if you want to do a recurring task that's accessible. On top of that, you can also go through and add inside tasks via the smart plans we're going to talk about in a second. But then you can see what is that task, which contact is it linked to. All right, it's assigned to myself on here. What's the priority for it? When is it due? So to create a new task, it's pretty simple on here. All right, you can just go through and add inside the task name. So maybe I'm going to say, teach an overview class on 12/20. All right, so I can put inside that task name, I can put inside description, hyperlink, priority level. I can specify when it is. Is it all day or is it at a specific time? All right, and then is it going to repeat? So I can actually repeat it daily, weekly on a Friday, since I'm creating it today on a Friday, monthly on the third Friday, so it knows, hey, this is the third Friday of the month, yearly on the 20th, or in this case, do I want to do custom? So I can say, hey, let's repeat this, every week on Monday and Friday, and then this will consistently come out. All right, but I'm gonna say it does not repeat. And once I click create on here, then this will automatically display. Now I have a bunch of tasks on here. So I'm gonna go in reverse order by the due date on here. So I have a couple different ones that are not due yet. So let's see if we can skip around and find one, that one that I just made on here. There we go. Need to get rid of a couple of these on here. All right. Well, rats, I was hoping it would pop up with just the one that was due today, but it looks like I have a lot that don't have a due date on here, so that's okay. All right, then I'll search by the task name on here. So let's do it this way. So I'm going to say teach. All right, there we go. All right, so as we can see, that task just came up. You're not going to have 660 tasks, FYI. So in this case, it'll be a little bit easier to view this. But then we can see teach an overview class on 12/20. It's assigned to myself, now in priority. It's due today, and it was created by myself. And then once I'm done with this, I can click the little checkbox on here. I can always click the box over on the left-hand side if I need to go through and reschedule this, change the priority, archive it. But since I'll complete this, I'll just put that checkbox or check mark over on the right-hand side, and we're now all good to go. Now, the good part is this will automatically display not only over on your command platform, but it's also going to display over on your command mobile app as well too for you to utilize. So just to give you a heads up, this is a great little option on here to take advantage of. All right, so I love how this is set up because then you're able to see all the tasks that you need to do at any time to make your life that much easier. All right. So the next thing we're going to have on here is the smart plans. So I'm going to click on smart plans real quick. There we go. Sorry, grab some water real quick. All right. Now, the smart plan section is going to be your main campaign platform on here. All right. So this is an email campaign plus texting plus tasks plus calls. So it's a great little kind of, way to get in front of your contacts. So this is one of your biggest items that you could utilize on your CRM. All right. So with that being said on here, when going through this, you can view all the smart plans that you may currently have on here. And if we went through and did a setup for you, then you might see 12 different smart plans, including the 10 key of your eye ones that you can use right away. All right, but then outside of that, we also happen to have a way where you can go through and view smart plans that are in the library that other agents have featured for y'all to utilize. That's the good part on here. You can actually see other smart plans that are accessible on here for you to take advantage of. All right. And then beyond that, we can scroll down. We can see the featured ones on here. All right, we can go through and we can actually see the Keller Williams specific ones. We can see top rated on here as well too, what's new. So you can always search for other ones on here as well. So maybe you're going through and saying like, hey, I want to find a 36 touch smart plan. All right, well, once you search for that 36 touch, we can see on here, we're currently just, viewing prior ones that were created on here. So it's going in reverse order chronologically. But I can see, all right, let's see the most used ones on here. All right, so here are some of the most used ones that we're seeing right now. And these all have over 1,000 downloads. All right, or maybe I want to go through and see the top rated ones. All right, so which ones are rated the most or the best on here? So as you can see, we added in one extra one. This one's got 4.5 stars on here. All right, or once again, you can also go through and view the newest on here. Now, this will then allow you to add this smart plan that these agents or leadership are adding inside and sharing with you to utilize. So this is a great way to start additional smart plans without having to start it from scratch. Now, one big thing that I always like to highlight, though, is that if you are going through and utilizing a smart plan on here, all right, just a big item. If I download like this 36 touch from Shailene, if you notice, it says created by your San Diego referral partner. So if I add in this smart plan on here and I download this, all right, oh, it looks like I already have that one on here. So that's perfect. May have already gotten it. But in most cases, the pieces that they have on here, all right, whether it's a text on it, whether it's an email, whatever it might be, all right, we'll want to double check because as you can see, just looking at this, one of their texts they have says, right on here, the market here in San Diego is still crazy. So you'll want to make sure that you adjust that, right? Because otherwise it's going to automatically display that information for that particular, agent, right? So we want to make sure we always go through and adjust that. All right, but you can also click this create option at the top right to make your own smart plan. So this way you can start from scratch to be able to create whatever you would prefer. So maybe you want to send out a smart plan that has 3 emails, 2 texts, and a call. You can segment that out and get that adjusted and ready to go. All right, so this is a great way to stay in front of anyone and everyone. All right, so on to the next section on here, then we also happen to have our referrals. So the referral section on here is exactly what it sounds like. It is meant to be internal referrals for y'all to utilize. All right, so on here, this internal referral platform is really just meant for you to be able to go through and say, hey, this is for myself to use if I have a referral to send out to someone over in, let's say Texas. All right, so maybe you're helping a seller that is selling their home and they're relocating because of a job, whatever it might be. All right, well, in this case, you can tell that seller, hey, while we're helping to sell your home and get everything listed on here, you can then also go through and search on my website and look for different properties that you'd like inside the area you're moving to. So maybe they're moving to Dallas. All right, so you can look inside different subdivisions in the area. And then once you find a property that you like, let me know and I can connect you with a Keller Williams real estate agent in the DFW area to help you out immediately. All right, so that's all accessible on here. And the good part about this is you can then grow your referral networks. That way you can start to send, other referrals out to people, receive referrals as well too if someone is moving to the Richmond area or just, any cities around the Richmond area. So you can view all of your referrals on here. All right. On top of that, you can also go through and view the map on here if you want to search for that. All right, so I'll say allow on here. All right, so then that way I can actually search for people in specific areas that I might want to find. So maybe I want to search for Richmond, VA. I'm going to do Richmond, VA on here. All right, and then it'll start to pull up different people around the area on here as well too. And then I can even go through, I don't know why it's not showing all of this. Let me scroll over, but then I can actually add that person to my referral network. Or in this case, I can send over a referral as well too. Okay. So all fun stuff on here. So I would definitely suggest taking advantage of this. And a great way to grow your referral network is obviously through, any KW specific events. All right, if you're doing a regional event, for instance, you might get to meet a lot of people around the region on here. So that way you can start to add them to your referral network. If you go to Mega Camp, Family Reunion, any other events that are happening, it's a great way to just kind of exchange information and stay top of mind because you never know when you might be working with someone and they are looking to move somewhere and you want to send out a referral and get that 25% referral fee or whatever the percentage might be for you. Or on top of that, you never know when someone else might be saying, oh, hey, someone's moving to this area and I need an agent that works inside. Right. And that could be yourself. All right. And then, of course, you can also view your network on here and see who has been added to your network to utilize this right away. All right, so that's all accessible for you. All right. Now, the next big item we have on here is the opportunity section. This is your sales pipeline. And this is where you can actually go through and see your leads basically all the way from lead to close. All right. So whenever you receive a lead, you can add them to your opportunity section because then this is going to allow you to go through and see where they are in the process, what you should be doing for them. Are there any checklist items that need to be done? And then more importantly, what is the likelihood that they're actually going to close? And what does that GCI or potential income or probable income look like? All right, there's going to be 5 different phases on here. And inside every phase, we're going to have different, kind of sections on here. So as you can see, we have different stages on it. All right, so under that stage section, this is where we can actually see, well, under cultivate, we have nurture, watch, and hot. And once again, much like I was talking about in the contact section, this is all customizable. So what you see on there is kind of the default items that'll pop up. But you can always click on, edit stages and checklists, and you can go through and change this as well. So if I want to change nurture on here, maybe I want to put this in as lead nurture. I can even change the probability that this is going to become a closed sale. So instead of 5%, maybe I want to put 1%. So there's 1% chance that's going to close. And then watch is at 5%, hot's at 10%. So as you move people down the pipeline on here, your probable and potential income will adjust. All right, so if you notice, like on here for 123 Main Street, looks like there's $12,000 in potential, in this case, potential GCI that could be made based on the sale of that home. All right, so this is saying that if I move this over here, for instance, all right, this is saying that, hey, $12,000 is at stake here if this closes and completes. So that's 100% of what the GCI would be. But since it's at 1%, there's probably only $120 in it. But as we move it along, you'll start to get higher. So now on here, it's now at 5%. So now there's $600 in here. And as we get closer and closer to the actual close section, that's when that's going to pop up and say, hey, it's now at 100%. So then potential and probable will match. All right. And once you click on any of these and start this opportunity, whether it's for a listing, whether it's for a buyer, whether it's for a rental, right, then this is where you're going to be able to actually see all the details about that particular property or what they might be purchasing or what they're looking for, so about that client. You can see some marketing that you may want to do as well too. Oh, let me see if I can refresh this real quick. All right, that's okay. Let's go back. Sorry about that. Let's go back inside here real quick. There we go. All right, but then we also have documents, and this is where you can sync up DocuSign directly. So that way, once you start the opportunity and you get this going, you can add inside your checklist on here that'll automatically populate from the office. And then more importantly on here, you can then go through and click on go to transaction. This will sync over to DocuSign to start a new room for you to utilize. So it'll all be accessible on here. So that way you can start to send off those documents to get everything prepped and ready for the closing. And then, of course, the ability to add inside offers and commissions on here. So this way you can put inside whatever offer may have come in for that listing or whatever offer has been accepted maybe by the buyer, or not by the buyer, sorry, that the buyer put in that's been accepted by the seller if you're working on the buying side. And then, of course, what is that commission going to look like as well, too? So all accessible on here, along with just some additional notes and timeline that you can look at as well. Now, the thing that I love about this is that you're going to be able to see and track everything from the very beginning. So once this starts on the cultivate side, then all the way through the close side, you're going to be able to see where they are in your sales pipeline. So you can keep up to date with all of your transactions or potential transactions that are going through, or all of your leads on here as well. Right. So that is all accessible for you. Now, the next big thing we're going to have on here is our campaign section. All right, so under the campaign section on here, all right, this is where you can actually go through and add inside or create paid ads, emails, direct mail, or social post. So this goes back to doing all that housekeeping at the very beginning of the class, where I said under your name, and once we go under settings on here, we want to connect some additional items. We want to make sure that we've got our information set up on our marketing profile. We want to make sure that we've got all of our other platforms connected, like Facebook, Instagram, geez, even Google AdWords, whatever it might be. Well, that's different on here. My apologies. But Facebook, Instagram, X, so that way we can post this out. All right. And we also want to make sure that we've got our command email set up. So whenever those direct emails are going out, we can ensure that we're getting the copies back on here whenever replies are coming through. All right. So with that being said on here, you do have paid ads where you can actually go through and create paid ads, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, or through Google, whether it's on google.com directly through Google Ads, all right, or through their display network where it'll actually pop up on other websites. So if you've ever been on a website and you see an ad pop up in the middle of the page or on the right-hand side, this is something that you can now do on here as well, right? To kind of highlight maybe a particular listing, highlight, trying to get some leads, whether it's like a what's your home worth type section on here, or maybe going through and just saying like, hey, here's an open house that's happening, or here's what's occurring in your area, just other things to kind of help out on that. You can also send out mass emails on here. So once again, you get 5,000 emails you can send per month, 5,000 per month on here. All right, so far this month, I've only sent 10. All right, I've only sent 10. All right, so on here, 4,990 are accessible after that. All right. Yeah. Oh, a question came in. Go for it.
Good morning. I was wondering if you're doing an ad in Command, is there a way to add a jot form so if anyone clicks on the ad on social media, they click on it, it would take them to the jot form so that you can get their contact information? Is there a way to
Great
do that?
question. Yeah, so through the paid ad directly, the good news on this is that if you're going through like Facebook or Instagram are the two big ones that'll be accessible. So I'll do a non-listing one on here, but if you notice, and then you also have TikTok as well too, but if you notice on here, some of them will say includes Facebook lead form. So for these 5 on here, it'll automatically have that lead form. Or if it says uses your landing page lead form instead, then that's something where you'd want to utilize, like you said, like a jot form or so. So if you use one on here that says includes Facebook lead form, it'll automatically pull in the lead form from Facebook directly. So when the information comes over, it'll add in their name, their email, their phone number, whatever they have on Facebook or on Instagram directly. And then on here, if you're doing one where it says to use your landing page, then I could say once I click on this, it'll give you the ability to add inside where that landing page is going to go. So whether it's an internal landing page that you've created, or in this case, like a jot form, then you can add inside that URL on here and it will be required since this one doesn't have the other auto landing page on there, auto lead form. So you can add that in immediately on here as well too.
So will that information go to Command automatically, or is it just an email sent and we have to manually enter it into Command?
Great question. Yeah. So if you're using an external landing page, like through Jotform or any other form provider, then that would go to that platform directly and have to be manually added in. But if you're utilizing like the Facebook lead form on here, that'll automatically sync with Command and it'll display that it's a lead from Facebook directly.
Okay. Is this something new? Because I don't remember seeing all of this before in here.
Yeah. Yeah, they did a massive overhaul on this, which is good. So it used to
Okay.
look a little bit different on here when it first launched, but this is the newer version that launched. Geez, I don't remember 100% when it launched. It was a little bit ago on here, but it made it a little bit easier and they're consistently changing stuff. So that's the good part on here to make it even simpler for y'all.
This is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm going to
of
start
course.
utilizing this a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. And I personally always suggest just to use like if you're doing a social one, the Facebook lead form because it's simpler and it takes away from the potential lead to not put inside their information because if they go to another
Mhm.
page then there's the chance they might get to that page and say, oh no, I don't want to put this in, and then you're still getting charged for that quote unquote lead that didn't actually convert. Whereas on the
Mhm.
Facebook one, in order for them to convert, they have to put in the information. So I usually suggest that one, but if you do want to go to a jot form, obviously you can then request additional info. So that's the one benefit on that as well too. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'd rather do it this way. That way I don't have to worry about it. Because with the jot form, I have to manually enter their information, like you said. This way it'll automatically go into my command, which is what we want. And hopefully
Yes.
we get all the information. So that's very
That's
helpful. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
of course. Yeah, that's what I may suggest. So hopefully that'll make it a little bit easier on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So beyond that, we've got the emails on here. There's also direct mail where you can send out postcard options directly out to your database or out to, external people inside a specific neighborhood, for instance. One of my favorite things on here is not only can you send it out to your database and can you send it out to a neighborhood, but when you create this, maybe I just want to do other on here and I'll do a test real quick. One of my favorite things on this is that when you create this for the targeting section, you can target based on a specific location, for instance, right? Or you can target to your database on here. But then once you go and you complete everything on configure targeting, you can then go through and choose which homes you actually want to highlight. So if there's specific homes, for instance, where you're like, hey, this home just sold earlier this year, I probably don't want to send them out this piece about, what's your home worth or anything of that sort, or here's another home that's sold in your area. You can actually remove that as well too. All right. And then finally, on the social post side, this is where you can start to schedule out different posts that'll be coming out. So did an example one yesterday where I have one coming out on the 23rd, for instance. I actually need to remove that. But this way you can actually start to schedule out different pieces that'll come out on here and where it'll actually highlight as well too. So I'm going to delete these on here. I don't want that to come out. But you can go through and schedule any pieces by clicking on create a social post on here, or even click on create campaign to get that going right away too. All right, so the next big item that we have on here is that report section. So under the report section on here, this is where you can actually go through and view all of your different reports. All right, whether it is, just an overview on here of, hey, here's the dashboard where I can actually see my database, for instance. How many contacts do I have? Or my total records? How many leads do I have? What is my database health on here? So of the 251 contacts, 69.47% is basically completed on here. And that is a culmination of phone numbers, emails, addresses, neighborhoods, home anniversaries, birthdays, social, geez, I was going to say social post on there. My apologies. Social URLs that you might have or social handles. And then on top of that, what is my database activity score on here? So in this case, how many have reached out in the past 30 days, past 60 days, past 90 days, over 91 days? And then over here, what does this look like on my source side? Right, just to help out. So that's just on the database side, but then we can also view reports on here too. So if I want to see what does my opportunities report look like? Well, currently I've got 31 new opportunities with potential income. The potential income on here is $3,321,330.40. Probable income of 0 because it's all test stuff on here, and then commissions of 2,640,000. All right, but then I can see what do my buyer opportunities look like? What do my listing opportunities look like on here? All right, and then I can even change this to show my goals report or even my opportunities report. And speaking of goals, if you have not done this quite yet for 2025, I may highly suggest this because we got our 2024 goals on here, or you can select 2025. And as you can see, 11 days and 14 hours left, not too much time left in 2024 to get these going. And as you go through on goal setting, all right, it'll actually walk you through setting this up on here. So in this case, what is your 2025 annual profit goal? How much do you want to make? All right, so if it's 750,000, my expenses are 150,000, cost of sales 150,000, then in this case, and about 75% listings, 25% buyers. On the listing side, I'm going to average about 12,000 per commission. So if it's at 3%, about 400,000 per home sold. And on the buyer side, about 7,500. Right, then it'll tell us, hey, this is what we actually need in order to get to that. So in theory, we need to make 1.1 million, right, in GCI in order to get to that goal on here. And then you can go through and actually specify, all right, what does the conversion look like on here? All right. So in this case, people have shown interest in the service you offer, but haven't engaged into a conversation. Maybe 5% on here. Contacts, 5%. Appointments set, 75%. You can go through and adjust all this to trickle it down to see what you need in order to get to that. All right. So I always love highlighting that. I don't want to set this quite yet because I want to come back. I got another class I got to teach on that. All right, but then outside of that, we also have to have our lead routing on here. Oh, this is just for Teams, my apologies. Disregard that, you won't see that. Okay, but then we also have to have our email section. So you can see what do your email metrics look like on here, how many emails have been sent, how many have been delivered, how many were undelivered if it was a bad email address, how many have been opened or clicked on or applied or unsubscribed. All right, and then on top of that, how many text or calls have gone out on here. All right, so through Twilio, you can also do calls and texts at the end of the day. So I'd love to highlight that on here just to let y'all know what's accessible. All right, so you can do calls or text on here. All right, and that way you can see how many were actually sent out, how many expired. And then once again, this is where you'll have that SMS on here. So as you can see, short message. I always think of standard. I know it's technically for short message, but I'm always like, yeah, standard text. All right, but then MMS, multimedia messaging. All right, and that's going to be more of if you actually send something out that is a picture or video, as you can see. And on here, this is if we're just sending out an actual text with text only. All right, now the next big section we have on here is the design platform. And this is where you can, well, design everything. All right, so in this case, you can go through, make whatever design you may prefer. All right, whether it's going to be for, so if I click on the create design option in the top right, I can do one for email, I can do one for social, I can do one for print, I can do a video as well too that's going to be around neighborhoods. And then you can also import photos and text from a listing on here. So when you're making that social piece, when you're making that print piece, you can highlight that right away. But if I click on any of these, maybe I don't want to import the photos, maybe I want to do a social piece and I click next, then it's going to take me to all the different templates that I have available that I can utilize. All right, so coming on here, as I can see, oh, hey, we've got our 2024 wrapped on here that we can go through and highlight, what it looked like that we did this year. Obviously, you've got one for, stories, one for that's more square that we can add inside that we can put over on multiple places. You can go through, you can find different listing collateral. All right, so coming soon, just listed for sale. We can find buyer information on here, whether it's a buyer presentation or neighborhood snap. There's lead generation items on here. All right, we have stuff around holidays. So if you're looking for holiday items for December, you can find all of them right over here to take advantage of. All right, so all accessible to help out on this. All right, and then even beyond that, we have a couple other items around luxury. You've got other stuff even in Spanish as well too, right? And then other collections that you might want to take a look at. In this case, primarily around KW events. So in case you want to highlight some of the stuff, you're definitely more than welcome to. All right. And of course, once you actually click on any of these, so if I go through and maybe I want to make a coming soon piece, and I want to do a coming soon, and I want to make it a social square on here. So I'm just going to look at these. I can either choose one of the templates that's available, or I can start from scratch. Once I click use on this, for instance, then this will allow me to go through and start to edit this immediately. So I can add inside other stock photos that are on here if I want to. I can add inside my own assets. I can search on the KWLS, for instance. So if I have a listing that I want to add in on here, I can search for that listing address and be able to pull that information over on here. All right, so all of that will be accessible to utilize at any time. All right, or of course, I can also go through and adjust this by just clicking on it. That's when I click on this, then I can put inside whatever I want to. All right. And you can update this at any time. We can move this around as well. So if I'm saying like, hey, I don't like this being over here, I want to adjust this a little bit further, I can start to drag this up as well too. Maybe if I want to put that up here for some reason, but obviously it looks a little bit better where it's automatically set. So I'm going to leave it as is. All right, but we can add in other items like drawings, shapes, frames, additional text. All right, as you can see, we can add this over here. We can add in other elements. And then we can even go through and download this once it's completed. All right, or just save this as well too. All right, so that'll all be accessible on here for you. All right, so I'm gonna hop out of this real quick. Then as you can see, it'll then get updated on, well, I didn't save it on there. I just went ahead and clicked done. So it didn't show anything quite yet, but we've got a couple other things that are accessible on here. All right, and then the final two big things we have, we've got listings as well. So this is gonna be your KWLS 2.0. This is gonna allow you to search very similar as you can over on the MLS. All right, so on the MLS, for instance, you're able to go through and kind of search for any properties that you want to. All right, but this is going to be a great way for you to be able to go through and say, All right, well, hey, well, here are my current listings that we have. This is a Market Center exclusive one, so maybe this is coming soon. I can search by some collections that I have on here if I want to search for specific listings that I want to be able to check with at any time, or I can just search for properties on here. So automatically coming up inside our area, so I'm able to pull this up over here. So maybe if I want to look inside Coy Town, what do the listings look like? So these are off-market listings, or these are some sold ones. But I can go through and filter this as well too and say, what do I want to see for listing status? Maybe I just want to see active and coming soon, maybe even active under contract. All right, so then we can see on here, all right, we've got a couple active ones and we can see the prices on here, beds, baths, square footage, standard stuff that we want to see. And then once we click on it, well, great, now we're going to pull in all that information. But the reason that I wanted to highlight this is it's not just information around your area, for instance. So I could then come on here and say, hey, I'm looking for a property address, and maybe I'm going to search on here and I want to search for Richmond. So I'll search for Richmond, Virginia. And even though I'm over here inside Orlando, I can search inside here as well too. All right, so maybe I want to search inside the FAM district on here. I can see once again all the sold ones. If I want to filter this out, it looks like we got one property on here. That's okay. I'm gonna put it in as active. Let's see if that one pops up on here. There we go. All right, so we got a couple extra ones on here actually. All right, but then I can click on this one that's showing on the map, for instance. Oh, that one's showing as sold. That's okay. All right, but then I can see if I'm going through it, where I'm looking for. But the reason I wanted to highlight that is it's going to show all listings around the entire country and even internationally. So anything that KW has access to is going to pop up on here to help y'all out. So some fun stuff that's accessible on here just to make your life a little bit easier. And then finally on here, we also happen to have our websites. So the website is where you can go through and just, well, first and foremost, view your website. So on here, you can click this edit website or edit agent site option if you want to go through and just edit that website right away. So we can actually go through and, view, hey, this is what our website's going to look like. I can click on the home page and adjust a couple items if I want to. All right, so I can see, hey, what's my center point on here? Where do I want this to populate from? So I'm going to change this again to be, let's do 32803. Right? So I can update that, and then my featured properties on my page, once I publish everything, will update on here as well. I can add site-specific testimonials, what do I want to highlight for the blog. So this is just the basic way of going through and adjusting everything. All right, or there is expert mode as well too. Because if I click out of this and go under my settings, I can access expert mode on here as well, where I can then go through and edit my website. Or in this case, I can view what is my subdomain on here, what's my app URL. In this case, if you are on a team, then it'll show the team information like I'm showing on here. And then some preferences, do we want to enable Keller Home ones? Do we want to enable Keller Covered? Do we want to show neighborhoods? And then also for registration, how do we want this set up when people are coming onto our website? Do we want them to be able to view all listings without a lead, pop-up coming up on there, or a lead form popping up and saying, hey, you've got to come through and fill this out? All right, do we want them to be able to view for 10 properties, 2 properties? They can't view anything until they fill that out. So completely up to you all on here. But then once you click on this edit my website, if you want to dive even deeper into the website editor, then this is where you can go through the background to edit this right away. So it'll all be accessible for you to then add inside additional pages, or we can help out with that as well too if you want to reach out to us directly. All right. So that's a little bit of anything and everything that is now accessible through your command platform. So once again, I know I did go through a lot of information on here very quickly because I wanted to show y'all anything and everything that's accessible, all the fun stuff you can take advantage of. Just a reminder, and I'll put this in our chat section. All right, on our website, scottleroymarketing.com. We also have training classes that are happening every Monday through Friday right at 1 p.m. And then all of our classes are recorded. So if you want to dive deeper into all the items on here, all right, so maybe you want to jump even further into the campaigns, for instance, and really take advantage of the social, and external campaigns through Google Ads or through the display network, then we'll have a class purely on that to help out. Right, so these are all accessible for you, or under this training calendar section. I'll paste this over inside our chat section on here. All right, this is where you can access all of our different classes that are coming up. All right, so today we're doing one just on DocuSign. All right, and then next week, obviously, we got a couple holidays, so not too much happening on Tuesday, Wednesday on here. All right, but you can view what classes are happening in December to finish out the month, what classes are happening in January as well, too, just to help you out even further. So these are going to be deeper dives into everything possible. All right, so some fun stuff that's accessible on here. All right, and once again, everything is accessible on our website, scottleroymarketing.com. You'll just use that password 470 when you're trying to log in, and all those items will pop up under your agent resources section. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming to the class today. Hopefully this was beneficial to get an overview of everything that's accessible on the K2B backend, on that command platform, and everything you can use on here. If y'all do have any questions, I'm going to put our contact info over inside the chat section on here, along with how you can get into our website, and then some helpful items as well, too. So please feel free to reach out at any time. Let us know if you need anything. But hopefully this helped out to get a nice little overview of anything and everything accessible on here right away.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Have a
Awesome.
good one.
Scott.
Yeah. Well, more importantly, I put a bunch of stuff inside our chat section on here to help y'all out. If you ever need anything, please feel free to reach out. And if I don't talk to y'all before next week, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. All right, let us know how we can help out with anything and everything. And more importantly, have a fantastic day today and enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
All
You
right,
too.
you too, Shane. Bye-bye.
See y'all soon.